Hey there, romance readers and kinky friends. We would love to keep the discussion popping on Instagram. Head over to romance@glance to play with us and recommend our next book.
Romance at a glance. Romance at a glance.
What you saying now?
Romance at a glance.
Go ahead, girl.
Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to Romance at a Glance. I'm Bridget, and joined by my beautiful host, Shawnee, as always. Hello, Shawnee.
Hello, Bridget.
How you doing today?
I'm doing all right today, Bridget.
Are you ready to talk about Gentleman Sinner?
I am so ready to talk about this book.
I have to tell everyone that, it has been so hard not to text you and call you about this book. I mean, we've been texting and calling about other things, but I really wanted to be talking about this book with you all week, and I've been biting my tongue as we've been setting up. I have so many thoughts.
So many thoughts. And it's funny because as soon as I finished this, I was like, I know exactly why Bridget had so much to talk to me about. And in general, the way I get around not talking to you about a book is telling you that I really want to talk to you about a book. That's
so I'm prepped.
That's
primed.
I'm like, I want to talk about this. And that's how I ease the tension of not being able to talk about it.
I have to tell you that I want to talk to you. I just have to get that off my shoulders.
And have full crazy eyes when you say it.
Yeah. So today we're talking about Gentleman Sinner, who was written by Jodi Ellen Malpas. She has written quite a few books, actually. This book is a standalone, but she was the author of the This Is a Man series or something, or I think that was a series. Yeah. Anyway, so she's definitely been around the block. We picked this book because it was one of the Audible recommends books in the romance category, and the score was super high. It was 4.5 stars. Yeah. And so we thought, oh, that sounds like a win. Let's do that. And dear listeners, what the actual fuck were you all reading? Because 4.5 stars, this book was not for me.
Not 4.5 stars. You know what?
Not for me.
Not a 1 star for me.
No, I did not enjoy this book at all. And it's so funny because this is the first book where I struggled to get through. If we weren't reading it for this podcast, I would have not read the whole book.
I would have quit.
Yeah, a third of the way through, I would have been like, I don't care.
I wouldn't even have made it a third. I think I started chapter 1, or 1 or 2 or something over and over at least 10 different times.
Yeah. And it's everyone be prepared. If you're going to read this book, it is over 300 pages.
It's a marathon.
It is a long, long book, and nothing really happens, which is tough because if you have the middle half of the book, almost nothing happens.
It's insane.
And a lot of the writing gets repeated over and over.
The tropes that keep getting used
she keeps saying over and over, he's my safe space. I just feel I don't know why, but I feel so safe around him. And I'm like, we get it. Move on.
Bridget, read. Can you just tell us what the synopsis is?
Let me give you a synopsis. Let me just give it to you. Izzy White knows of the darkness in this world. After all, she escaped it long ago. Did she escape it? We're going to talk about that. Determined not to let her past beat her, Izzy has a secure, stable life with a job she loves in nursing. But one act of kindness will completely upend everything she's so carefully built, putting her right back in the crosshairs of danger she's been desperate to avoid. When Theo Kane shows up like a knight in shining armor, Izzy can't help thinking she's been saved from one threat and exposed to another. His imposing physique, the harsh lines of his face, and the wariness of everyone who comes close are just a few clues to Theo Kane's notorious reputation. The man is positively terrifying, but with Izzy, he's tender and a complete gentleman, and her fascination with the mysterious beast of a man becomes too powerful for her to walk away. As Theo's demons come to light, running becomes even more impossible. What? And yet, staying together could doom them both. It couldn't doom them both. Part A. I would like to start with...
I was doomed for reading this book. I was doomed.
You were doomed.
I was set up for failure.
I was set up for failure. Let's quickly cover the cover art because I feel like it didn't make any sense to me. So it has a cage, a beautiful, ornate, antique bird cage.
Yes.
With no birds in it or anything. It's just a cage.
Yeah.
And a little cage door. And so I'm thinking this is going to be an S&M book where someone is controlling someone else and putting them in a cage. Mm-hmm. Or it's going to be something along those lines. Was kind of I thought it was going to be darker in many respects than it was. But that is not what I was delivered.
So I definitely thought it was going to be a BDSM or sadomasochism or dominant type of book, dominant submissive. And the cage actually made me think it was an older book than it was.
Different time period.
Yeah, I thought it was a different time period. And then like the British accents in the very beginning. So I literally set it in place in my mind in the past, and then quickly
you were thinking like early 1900s or something?
Yeah, and then quickly had to when they were in the hospital, I was thinking literally of like a GIs, like the old
cutting limbs off and shit in World War I.
World War I. That's literally how my brain set it up. And then as they were talking about, we're going to Vegas, and I was like, Vegas?
And on an airplane?
And then I had to like reassess and rebuild the world.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that it was set in London until like, because the dialogue was not British except for a couple words.
Yeah.
So obviously you were listening, so you were hearing the accent, but I did not hear the accent. I didn't even realize they were in London until like chapter 4. And I was like, oh, I must have missed that because someone said arsehole or something. And I was like, why would you even write it? Like, what a weird. I didn't like it.
It really was a weird setup. And the British accents just made me, honestly, because I'm so used to historical too. Like, I was like, oh, okay, it's historical. But it was not historical. And I didn't think there was enough references at first to let me know that it was modern day.
No.
It was weird.
It was weird.
Yeah.
So basically the book premise, like how it all sets up is she's a nurse. She finishes a long shift. She's walking home and takes a shortcut through a dark alley of, now we know, London. And she hears a woman scream. And so she decides to go back and help, even though her internal monologue says, like, I know I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I can't let a woman, like, be in danger or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you're a badass heroine. I'm down for this. But she does not help, really. I mean, she almost gets raped by the same guy who's trying to beat up and rape this other lady. Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, like, a Bentley pulls up with two humongous. They talk about how huge these guys are, like, over and over. Two huge guys come out and they, like, beat this guy up badly and then carry the girl into the car. And then and she basically, like, invites herself into this Bentley with these very scary men that she's describing who are beating up this other scary man who almost raped her.
Yeah. Because
she's a nurse and she can't let her go. And she's like, you have to take her to the hospital. And like, we're not going to. And she's like, then I'll come with her. And I'm like, motherfucker, where's your self-preservation? That's a terrible idea.
Like, and I'll give you this gun so you feel safe.
Yeah, and he's like going to give her a gun so she feels safe. And I'm like, the fact that you have a gun makes me feel quite unsafe.
Which she says and then gets over.
And she's like, but she's fine with it. She's like, it makes me uncomfortable, but also for some reason I feel so safe with him. This is literally like the very beginning, and she repeats that theme throughout. It makes no sense, but I feel safe with you. And I'm like, it does make no sense. Stick with that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they go to the house.
Stick with that.
They go to the house. She helps, make sure the girl doesn't have a coma and sort of nurses her and whatever. Very altruistic. And basically in this time, he has now become obsessed with her.
Yeah.
To the point that he goes to her work, is it the next day or something, and stalks her.
Yeah.
And
he's like, I'm going to pick you up.
Comes into the hospital and is crowding her and walks out. He does not know her. He walks out and he's all close to her, and that old lady's like, yeah, get it, girl. And, but like realistically, I'm like, no, he's a predator. Where are the cops? Because like
he was a predator.
He forces her to leave with him.
Yes.
And says like, I'll pick you up. Like, you're coming with me no matter what to have dinner with me.
That fool was so rapey.
She says no 1,000 times.
Yes.
I don't want to have dinner with you. I don't know you. This makes no sense. No, I don't want to call you. No, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But like, he doesn't care. He literally says, I don't care because I'm obsessed with you and I get what I want. And I'm like, okay.
There was nothing to me sexy about his dialogue.
No.
I was like, these are all red flags, and they feel like red flags.
Well, at first I was like,
they're beyond red flags.
So let me tell you a story about how
bloody pool.
The whole first third of this book, I was like, maybe it's a supernatural book. Because they kept talking about how he was like
so huge.
He was so huge, and he's like, clearly has a past, and no one will touch him, and everyone's afraid of him. And I was like, oh, duh, he's obviously some demon lord or some shit. Like, and that's why no one will touch him or get near him.
Yeah.
And he's obsessed with her, and I'm going to be able to forgive it because it's some sort of like intrinsic like demonology or vampire thing or whatever. I literally thought that through, for sure, the first third. Even halfway through, I was like, it could still come up. It could still save this book if this is not a human being. And it turns out that was not the case.
He is a human being.
So then he forces her to have dinner with him.
Yeah.
Which is just, again, rude. She just had a 12-hour shift. And she's like, okay, cool. Well, this was nice, but I'm going to go because I'm going to Vegas with my friend like in a day.
Yeah.
And she leaves to go to Vegas. And he's like, where are you? When he calls her, she's like, Vegas. And he's like, why didn't you tell me you were going there? She's like, I don't know you, bro.
I don't know you, man.
And I was like, appropriate. That's an appropriate response, I think. It's like, why would I tell you? I don't know you. And then he shows up.
Reddest flag.
In Vegas.
Flag on the plate. Flag on the plate.
London. Shows up with his bodyguard best friend in London. Chastises her for wearing a sexy swimsuit.
I mean,
tells her to cover up. Tells her she is having dinner with him. No, and
in his suite. When was it?
In his suite.
His bodyguard
he doesn't even take her out to dinner.
Yeah, and was like, she's like, I think we're going to his room, not to like dinner.
Yeah,
and at no point does she go like,
I'm not going in this suite by myself.
This foot is down, like Bridget liked to say. This foot is down. I have said no. Foot down.
Yeah,
nothing's
I'm
changing.
On girl vacation. Foot down.
And then how rude is it that she just dips from her homegirl? You flew to Vegas with your homegirl.
So rude.
And left her.
You left her drunk, passed out, and then you didn't even answer your phone, so now she thought you were like dead or something. Also, she knows that you've been raped in the past, so she knows you have a sexual traumatic history, so of course her mind is going to immediately jump to the worst conclusions.
Yeah.
As it should. And
she's
your friend, and she's worried about you. And like, considering that she talks so much about the hospital being her safe place and having her routine and building her life up and not wanting to be scared and all this other stuff. Like, you go into a strange man's hotel suite where there's two, it's not even one guy, there's two guys there who are both obviously way big enough to overpower you, separately or together. And like, you're not like, oh, I've already had a horrible experience. Maybe I'd like to meet in public. It makes no sense to me.
I mean,
makes no sense to me.
Like, there are so many points. Bridget,
again, readers, we're in the first quarter of the book.
I have to be honest, man. I skipped so much in this book.
Good.
Like, I was like, and then I would skip a whole chapter and nothing would have happened.
No, like nothing happens during the middle third of this book.
And then I hate that. I mean, I'm not mad at a trope where like a guy saves the girl. No. I mean, it's used a lot and I like alternatives, but I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
But he had to save her from physical altercations like a shit ton of times in this book.
Yep.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why are we using this same
over and
thing
over
to drive whatever?
Yeah.
Why is he always looming?
Always looming.
I mean, I mean, in the book, I was scared of him as a loomer. Like,
yeah, I honestly was like, what is going to happen here?
You know, I was like, who is at the end? He's going to murder her? Like,
well, so, and it's weird. Okay, so he ends up, we find out having this phobia where like no one can touch him without him like being aware it's coming. So like anytime she wants to touch him, he like grabs her hands and like puts them on his shoulders or whatever so that he knows it's coming. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you don't find out why until the last fifth of the book. Like, same with her past trauma. You don't find out until the very, very end. And I'm like, it's from her point of view. We should have known from her internal dialogue what happened at the beginning of the book so that we could know what's going on with her, and we don't, and it's very annoying. But, so he ties her up in bed so that her hands can't, like, accidentally grab him, and then he might, like, react and attack her or something like that. And I was like, okay, sure, I guess if she's into that. But she's actually not into that. And she says numerous times, she even asks him, can you not tie me up today? And he's like, you know the rules. You know how this is going to go. And I'm like, the fuck kind of nonsense is
this
that?
Is like the biggest like toxic like
So
relationship. If you can even call it that. It almost feels one-sided. But like, it's completely toxic. So this type of book, I'm not sure. I think this book was released at the beginning of this year, or at least on audio it was, so either in the last 2 years. And so there's a running theme of these books, right? Where after 50 Shades of Grey, authors are just racing to turn out these like BDSM, DS type style books. However, they are not at all in alignment with the kind of rules and regulations around BDSM. So they're really just rapey. They're really toxic relationships.
Yep.
And they are not anything that you would expect or a BDSM relationship to really look like.
Yeah.
It a little bit scares me because I know how many people read these books, and I don't want them to be in a relationship like this.
No. If you say don't tie me up and someone ties you up, that's fucked up.
That's fucked up. That's like that's a crime.
Yeah, being tied up is supposed to be fun for you, and it's supposed to be a consent thing and a trust thing.
If it ain't fun,
you know. Well, at one point, like later in the book, he says like, "Okay, turn around and grab the headboard."
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's a perfect solution to not wanting to be tied up.
Bingo.
She's not tied up. Her hands can't touch you. Solved it.
And doggy style is one of the best styles.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
That's why all the animals are doing it like that. Exactly. They're smart.
They just get to it right from the jump.
They just go right in there, coming in hot.
And I hated that her internal dialogue would justify the bad behavior.
Yes.
Like she would be like, no. But he was just so hot and he was so big and I couldn't resist him. That doesn't justify him being like abusive and rapey.
Yeah, and he like does other terrible things too. He gets her fired.
Yeah.
Because he like throws a tantrum.
A little
and
bitch
like,
fit.
Yeah, and then yells at her boss and scares her and gets her fired. And I'm like, way to go, brah. And then he also invites her rapist to his club.
Yes.
Because he wants to confirm that indeed that is the guy that she's scared of. But he doesn't do it in a way where like he confides in her and says, hey, I want you to look out from behind this protective bulletproof glass and point this person out to me.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't do it in a way that would make her feel safe. She literally gets pulled into an alcove by the rapist in front of this guy and all his security guards. They don't see it. And he's like about to rape her and he slaps her in the face and pulls her dress up and he's palming her.
He got way too far.
He got so far so fast. I was like, that man...
I mean, this boggles my mind. Like, this is...
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, where's her self-esteem in general? Because to me, to let all this happen, you must have zero... You have to have...
Are you talking about with the rapist? Or with...
No, I'm talking about the main character, right? Like, like all the things that
he does to her.
Well, Izzy is letting all of these things happen.
Oh, yeah.
And then when it gets to this end point where he lets her rapist in there, when that one... He knows that she's uncomfortable with this person, and he doesn't have complete eyes and control of the situation. No. Bitch ass move right there.
Yeah.
That, to me, you know, I'm just like, what is this? It's infuriating, and it's also contrived, so both parts of my body hate it. I'm like, the author contrived
that would never
this
happen.
thing. Yeah. And then, you know, that it got so far, and then now he's going to kill this guy, and whatever. I'm like, you did that, man. Bro, this is your mistake. Like, and then she's...
Yeah, and then he takes the guy into the ring, into the fighting, because he runs an underground bare knuckle boxing MMA fighting cage. And he, like, basically he did it because he wanted to confirm that guy was the rapist so that he could be feeling justified in killing him.
Yeah.
And, like, beating him to death. Even though she's standing there saying, please don't do this.
Yeah. And I really feel like, and that was the other thing.
And the cop husband of the mom was like, I can't cover up another murder. And I was like, what is happening?
What is happening? This
also,
book?
Cops cover up murders. I get it, but like,
you know what this book is to me? Because I've read other reviews. First off, there's no way that it says 4.4 stars on Audible. Yeah. Lies. Those are all bot reviews. I don't believe it for not one damn instance. But
on Goodreads, it's over 4 too.
What the fuck? She's stacking the deck. Somebody's stacking the deck here because. Like, and everybody says that her other series, like even in the reviews, everybody's like, this is one of my favorite authors. I don't believe she wrote this. That is literally in the reviews on Audible. And they're like, this can't be the same author of this series that I read. This was an amazing series. Some imposter wrote this. So this book to me is, you know, when like, I don't know, Justin Timberlake or somebody gets locked into an album contract, they got to deliver 3 albums before they can get out of their contract. So they create like a bullshit ass album to hand to the record label so they're free and clear. That's what this book is right here. She needed to get out of this contract. She owed them 3 books or some shit.
Could be.
And she's like, fine. You want it? I'm going to give you a book that I'm literally just going to write in an endless stream of consciousness, not edit it. Not get an editor.
Where was her editor?
At all. Like, where was your editor?
Yeah, because I would have cut out 100 pages of this book.
Fire that person.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
If this was me and I wrote this book, I would quickly take it off the shelves. If I, like, maybe I didn't realize it. I was, you know, going through a rough time in life. Maybe I was on medications that made me a little bit loopy. I don't know. I would immediately pull this off the shelf. This is one of the most terrible books that I've ever read. And I actually read it towards the end, I read it backwards. So I did because I was so desperate to end it. Like when I had started skipping, I was like, you know what? Let's skip to the end. I listened to the last chapter and then kept going back chapter by chapter by chapter. And it was very easy to do because nothing happened. You're just adding information backwards.
Yeah.
It was a mistake. I think it was my choice at the end of the day to do this book. I was like, let's pick one from Audible. And Bridget was nice. She was like, yeah. But I was like, oh, I needed more research. But also reviewers, you gotta tell people.
Yeah, you gotta be honest.
You gotta be honest.
You gotta be honest.
It's like when
which it's funny because like it part of me feels bad because I'm like, she wrote a book. Like props, like finishing a novel, props. Anyone who finished
super hard.
Super, super, super hard. However, not your first book. You have a successful other series, which again, like you pointed out, people like. So presumably those books are better than this one. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me that you're editor and you didn't tighten this up. Like, here's a big glaring example of like, this whole book is not in the same edited world.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the book and all throughout it, she talks to her friend in very vague terms, her best friend who she lives with, about what had happened in her past. So we're given a glimpse that clearly it was sexually traumatic. Clearly there was physical violence involved because she has a lot of scars on her stomach. Clearly she talks about being afraid and standing up for herself and being able to take a hit. She says that numerous times. Like, I can just disassociate myself after all I've been through and blah, blah, blah. So and her friend even says, you weren't really a stripper, you were more of a slave. So in my mind, all of those things together were not one sexual rape encounter or violence encounter, but like a systematic something. Like somehow she was a teenager because you find out she starts stripping at 17.
Yeah.
And they took advantage of her and she was like repeatedly raped over the course of presumably months, if not years, and presumably beaten constantly and abused constantly over the course of a long period of time. Which I'm not saying I want that for a character or anyone, obviously, but that is the story they set up.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the book, when she finally confesses to Leo what happened, which she kind of has to because he like brings her rapist to the bar, which is bullshit. It turns out that this guy was a regular at the strip club, that they only had one interaction outside of the strip club in which he raped her, beat her, and he had a knife pulled on her so that he could rape her. And he said, if you move, I'm going to cut you. And she was struggling and he cut her stomach, which left the scars. And then she went to the hospital. And after the hospital, she like deleted all of her numbers and all this other stuff and hasn't seen him since.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is horrendous. Don't get me wrong. Horrific. However, that does not make sense when your friend says you were almost a slave. Because I'm like, no, she was a stripper who got attacked. And again, that's terrible, but that doesn't make you a slave. And like, she's talking about how she can like disassociate from being hit. And I'm like, I don't think that's something you develop in one encounter of being hit. Maybe it is, I guess. I don't know, but that doesn't seem right. At least it didn't ring true to me as I was reading. And so for me, when we got to the end, I was like, really? I mean, it almost felt like the
evidence isn't matching
it just
the
didn't
data.
match. I was like, really? Like, he attacked you once? Like, not that, again, that's not horrifying. But I'm like, that's not what you set up this whole time. Like, that's not the story you told me.
No, it's like the story that they're telling. The reason we're sitting here with the most confused looks on our face as we talk about this is because they give you this information that sets up one world, and then what's happening, what they actually make happen in the world is not connected. And it feels very disjointed. So it's like...
Yeah. Same with his story. Because, like, he doesn't let anyone touch him, including his mom.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you find out it's because his dad used to, like, physically abuse him and beat him and his mom. And he would hit him all the time out of nowhere to try and toughen him up and all this other stuff. And so he started, like, flinching every time someone would come at him. And then one day his dad attacked him and he was, like, I don't know, 18, 20. I don't know how old he was, if they said it in the book. I forget.
Something like that.
And his dad, like, came at him from behind and he, like, lost it and beat his dad to death. And that's, like, why he can't let anyone touch him anymore because it, like, kind of flashes him back to beating his dad to death. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you set that up. And I get why you wouldn't want to tell someone that you recently started dating. P.S. I killed my dad in a fit of rage and beat him to death. But I also feel like that's not something that you just get over. At the end of the book, he's totally over it.
First of all, when she was like, I'm gonna throw what's it, balls at you or socks at you or something,
tennis balls at him, and I'm like, that's not gonna work.
Like, and
I
then
mean, it could. Who knows?
And then they
I'm not
wrapped
a
it
doctor,
up
I
real
guess.
neat when they were like, and
So
they
they
were
had
like,
a baby.
and I got over it.
She got pregnant on birth control. Happens. Actually. Then they have the baby. He decides to be a stay-at-home dad. He's worried that the baby will cause some reaction, which it doesn't, which that makes sense to me because babies like can't sneak up on you when they're babies and stuff. So like that makes sense to me. But they've also overcome all of his trauma in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And aren't using cuffs anymore. Also, his friend, though, was touched him on the shoulder. I don't know if you caught that when the baby was there. And I'm like, oh, so it's just everyone can touch
Everybody
you now.
can touch him.
And he's like walking through the hospital and like totally fine with other
All
people
wrapped
getting
up
close
neat.
to him. And yeah, he's like paying for her to be a doctor. And he's going to be a stay-at-home dad with this baby. And it's so cute. And then they have tender sex. And she literally says, she or he says during this book, I don't know if you caught this line. It was pretty subtle. But he said,
Stop.
He said, I'm going to fuck you like a whore. 10 times in this book. That line,
that's
15
That's
times?
the line I wrote down.
As your favorite, least favorite line of this whole
yes,
book?
it's my favorite, least favorite.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like,
we get it.
we get it. Also, you never did fuck her like a whore.
No, never.
You tied her up because you have emotional and physical handicaps and limitations.
Yeah.
And that's okay as long as you recognize them. But that doesn't, that's not like how people... I've never had sex with a whore, to be fair. But I imagine that if I was to have sex with a whore and was trying to imply that I was having some sort of dirty or foul or aggressive or... Because if you're saying sex like a whore, then you're presumably saying that it's different than a vanilla sexual encounter you'd have with someone you're in love with or something.
Yeah.
I don't think it would just be... I mean, they just have vanilla sex, aside from the fact that she's tied up. That's it. It's regular...
There's so many books I feel like we encounter
regular.
where it's like they try to present as if it's going to be a kinky thing, and it's vanilla with this one thing that you usually find in kink, but it's not really kinky.
It's not really kinky.
This was not kinky to me. I think they were trying to do the thing where with energy play, with the dominant play in that, but it missed.
But she was not a submissive.
But no, and it missed all the marks.
Yeah.
And if it was a dominant submissive play, then he literally crossed every line and boundary of consent and proper protocol that, like, so this was
It was so hard.
Such a hard
Can we
book.
talk about his mom for just like a hot second?
Sure.
So his mom is like his business partner in this club. And she has a new husband who's like in the police department. He's not that new. I mean, they've been married for a long time, it seems like. So the mom is like really nice to her and is like, I'm so happy that my son is like, falling in love with someone, and you're the first girlfriend he's ever had and that I've ever met, and blah, blah, blah. And so she's like really nice, but also like she's a really terrible character because she's so mean to his stepsister, who was her first husband's bastard child. But I'm like, you hated your first husband. He beat you and your son. So like, why wouldn't you feel some sort of kinship towards this daughter?
Yeah.
And also like, you're like a grown woman and this girl is not 12 anymore. Like she's like 25 and your son thinks of her as a sister. You're a petty ass bitch.
I mean, petty as hell.
And then secondly,
Team petty.
So after he beats to death her ex or her rapist, he stalks off into his office and she follows him to console him because she can tell he's upset. I mean,
dear listeners, I wish you could see Bridget's face right now.
I'll make it and we'll post it on Instagram. And she even though she knows better, she says this in her internal monologue, I knew better, but I thought it would be okay. She touches him and he like whips around and punches her in the face. Yeah. Knocks her out cold. Which, again, I'm glad he knocked her out cold because sometimes when people get hit and they like build up this, how big this guy is, how strong he is, he's a fighter, he's trained, and then they like don't knock the person out. I'm like, she's probably like 130 pounds. Like if he turned around and swung and hit her in the face or punched her in the face, she would drop like a goddamn stone. Which I'm happy she passed out. Yeah. Not happy he hit her, but happy she passed out. The first thing the mom says when she wakes up is, I told you to let him cool off. I told you to leave him alone. And I was like, bitch, your son just punched her in the face. The fuck? It's not her fault. Are you kidding? That is is some bullshit.
It's weird because I have like so.
I mean, it is her fault, but like it's also like not the time.
It's just like tact, right? I lack it, so I understand. Like for me in my brain, it's like the book has set up these rules that he doesn't like to be touched, and then when he's in these extreme anger moments, he goes into weird space or whatever, you know. And in this moment, she definitely disregarded all of the safety mechanisms he put in place and was like, don't cross these lines.
Sure.
And then she got face palm right down to the floor. And I'm a little bit like, I mean 1 + 1.
Yeah, I mean, he told you it was going to happen. But I also feel like...
But I don't feel like the mom needed to come in.
Yeah, I don't think the mom needed to rub it in her face.
I feel like the whole getting punched in the face
was enough.
It was
enough. And so then he's again a terrible hero.
Yeah.
And he leaves and doesn't come back for weeks. No one can find him. And she's like searching for him.
Yeah. Because
she feels bad that she was the one who caused him to hit her. And I'm like, he just beat a man to death that you asked him to leave alone. Nah, no, I'm sorry. He does not get to have a pity party about accidentally punching you in the face, too. And then the reason she finds him again is because he's beaten almost to death on purpose, because it turns out he was chained up.
Yeah.
And brought to her hospital, and then she magically keeps him alive with her voice. He stays away from the light.
I hear your voice, and I'm here for you, babe.
Oh, is that your touch? Oh, I can tell it's your touch, even though I'm unconscious and in a coma. I'm dead. I'm flatlining, but I know it's you touching me, not the other nurse. And I'm like,
it's an angel.
That doesn't make sense. They wouldn't let her do any of the medical procedures anyways. They wouldn't. It's a liability issue.
So the daughter of a nurse.
Yeah. So anyways, that whole part was just batshit. A batshit ice cream topping on top of this shit show of a book. Oh my God. And then they had a happily ever after, which I was like, this is not whatever.
First of all,
did you have left his ass?
Did you find the epilogue to be way too fucking long?
So long.
It was like its own little novel.
Honestly, this book was too long in every single direction. Oh my God. And we didn't even get, okay, I don't even want to touch on this, but I think we should quickly touch on it and then move on. Her best friend and his best friend they're clearly being set up to be in another book together.
Yes. There should be no more books.
No, there should be no more books. But it's just such a stupidly written interactions between the two of them. And he's like, I don't know whether to shoot her or have sex with her. And I'm like, probably should do neither if those are your two options. I'm like,
I mean, if that's all you can come up with,
and this is
bruh.
even like at the end of the epilogue where this baby is now alive. So this is like more than a year later.
Yeah.
And he's still like having these, I don't know what to do with her. I don't know if I want to like shut her up or let her keep talking. And I'm like, and the other girl's like, I don't know if he likes me or if, but she's not talking about if she likes him. She's just like, I don't know if he likes me or he hates me. But like, I want him to put the gun to my head. And I'm like, what is happening? No. Stop. Because I didn't even get to enjoy the subplot romance or like burgeoning romance. I was just like, this is stupid. You set up your friend to be like so independent, and she's like this badass nurse also, and like works hard, and you guys are smart, and I just can't with this book. Shani, I cannot with this book, okay?
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. Let's just go into our hero and heroine ratings. Mine were both 1 because I hated this book.
Mine were 1 because that's the lowest increment of measurement that we set in place.
Okay, good. I was gonna do 0, and then I was like, I don't think we do zeros. Do we do zeros?
We don't do zeros.
Okay. Also, like, what did you think? Did you think he was
I thought he was a pussy ass bitch.
I said he was McDreary. Please let us know what you think on Instagram. If you have read this book, come chat with us over there and like let's talk about it if you liked it, because I will talk about it.
I need to know.
I need to know if you liked it. Realistic. I actually want all of you to go read it.
Yeah, because
I know it's going to be a time suck out of your life, but it would really make me feel good if you read it, so that then we could complain.
So
about
we could talk shit together.
Yeah,
there's something like like when you watch a bad movie with your homegirl and you cackle at the whole thing.
Totally.
It's worth watching that bad movie. It's even true. It's a great experience.
Yeah, it's better than some good movies.
Yeah, I'm enjoying talking shit about this book with you right now.
So let's go to the classy to the nasty. Obviously, this book was vanilla.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that he ties her up. But he's not tying her up for fun or kink. He's just tying her up for safety,
For
which I'm
practical.
like, practical reasons. And I'm like, that's not hot.
That's not hot.
And also, she doesn't want to be tied up. So that's taken me right out of the whole thing.
I mean, Classy to Nasty, this book for me was literally just rapey. Like, it the way he pursues her,
Yep.
His language was not suave. Nope. At no point, in fact, for me,
there seemed no reason for her to be wooed.
Yeah, for me, I a little bit felt like he was not the hero. That there was really a hero who's really gonna come.
I
in
know.
The book. That
Another thought I had.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, somebody's gonna come and knock this guy out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he was the hero, and the way he talked to her, I was like, no game, no suave, overbearing, showing up in places. I mean, I've had that shit happen to me. Gets her fired from her job, shows up at her job unannounced. Says I'm taking you somewhere, forcibly gets you in his vehicle. Mm-hmm. This is kidnapping. Mm-hmm. This is rape. Mm-hmm. This is like, false imprisonment.
Yes.
I mean,
you can see how heavily I'm nodding at Jodi right now, trying not to like talk while she's talking.
I mean,
yes.
Yeah, like all of these things.
Yes.
I literally thought, even though they pump him up to have all this machismo, whatever, I was like, this is a pussy ass bitch. And you know how I feel about Pabs, Bridget.
Yeah.
I don't like him.
Oh, Pabs. What a fun acronym.
You know?
That could be a t-shirt. You know how I feel about Pabs.
You know how I feel about Pabs.
Pussy ass bitches. I like it.
I'm just like, what the fuck?
I'm gonna skip today the skimmer guide to the Cookie and Nookie because the Cookie and Nookie is terrible in this book, and I don't want you to skim to it or read it.
Yeah, not at all.
Okay. Did you have a favorite line? I mean, least favorite?
It was my least favorite that they kept using, which is like, I'll treat you like a whore. What was
treat you like a princess and treat you like a queen.
Yeah, treat you like a queen and fuck you like a whore. Something like that. They kept saying it.
Yeah.
Why did they keep saying it?
Again, she used the same lines over and over in this whole book.
I swear, something is going on in her life, this author, because nobody in the comment sections believes that she wrote this book. It's like a conspiracy.
My favorite line of the book, and I kid you not, this is what I wrote. Ugh, I didn't like this book at all. And then I chose this one as one of my least favorites because it is showing how rapey he is. There aren't many things in this world I desire, Izzy. It's a short list, and therefore I have plenty of time to dedicate to each item on it. You're now at the very top. And I'm like, she doesn't want to be at the top of your list, bro. She doesn't even want to talk to you. Leave her alone. Let her go on her girls trip to Vegas, you fucking creeper.
Then we'll show up at Vegas, and I know exactly where you are.
Yeah.
How does he know exactly where she is?
How does he know what pool party she's at? They just randomly decided on that pool party.
Yeah.
He was stalking her.
And then he's like, oh, well, I'm here for business. And then later she's like, you weren't here for business. I'm like, yeah, because he just lied to your face.
But then he never admits it later.
No.
It feels like he should have.
There's just a lot of lying.
There's a lot of weird
these
stuff.
are red flags.
Yeah.
I mean, if he really likes you, he'll respect your boundaries.
Yeah.
He'll do some sweeter, less creepy things. Maybe
he sends you flowers to Vegas.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets you VIP table.
See, I accept that.
That would have been a really charming thing. Keep you away from the other people. Yeah.
That's what, see, girls think about this.
See, I could be wooed. I could be wooed.
I could be so wooed.
Not by that man, though. If he had shown up in Vegas, if my husband showed up to Vegas while I was on a girls' trip, I'd be like, what the fuck is going on? I would be alarmed. I would be very alarmed. And if he said, cover up that swimsuit, I'd be like, oh no, we're about to have a fight in public. I'm not going to cover up and wear whatever the fuck I want. They're not even dating.
We're not even
they
dating.
Haven't even dated yet at that point when he's telling her to cover up.
I'm just like,
fucking crazy.
I remember one time, I mean, this guy was nuts. I met this guy on Words with Friends. And by and by met, I mean, I had no intention of dating him. He was just a dude I played Words with Friends with, and he was in Canada.
Okay.
And he would talk to me about all his whole life and things going on in his life. And I actually didn't give him much information at all. It's Words with Friends. Just put down your Scrabble word, double word score, and let's call it a wrap. And I remember him like falling in love with me over like the chat. And literally I was just like saying things like, I see. He would say something, I'd say, I see. He's like, you're a good listener.
I think honestly some people are so lonely though.
I mean, it had to be.
I mean, I'm not defending this book. I mean, in general. Some people are so lonely.
And it was crazy because it went to crazy town very quickly, right?
Did he come to LA?
No. So what he did is he's like, I'm an attorney in Canada, whatever. I'm sure in an old like email address, I still have like an email or something from him. He's like, you should come to Canada. I'll pay for you to come to Canada. and you can stay with me, and I just feel such a connection with you. And I was like, what I'm not gonna do, what's not gonna happen,
Get chopped up in a basement in Canada.
in Canada, right? So that, and as a girl, that's what you think of, right? You're like, I'm not trying to die in Canada where nobody knows where my body is, and there's a lot of wilderness in Canada. And the funniest part about this is that I told him, like, I was like, no, I'm not going to Canada. And I was like, next time, like, I'm practical, Bridget, you know me. If you're gonna offer, dear listeners, and I hope that there are some men listening to our podcast, but actually, women, you can do this too. If you're going to offer to pay to fly somebody to where you are,
Right.
offer to pay their rent while they're gone. We got bills to pay. If I don't work for a month, it doesn't help if you fly me out and pay my expenses at a location if I can't pay my rent at home and my bills and my power bill. You gotta say to somebody, I'm gonna pay your bills while you're gone. I'm gonna pay your everything here, and you know what? I'm gonna give you a little extra change
want a
to
sugar daddy.
do whatever you want
that
with.
shug.
You know what I'm saying? Don't be stingy with the sugar. If you offering sugar, give the whole pot of sugar. You know what I'm
I
saying?
always thought that it would be really fun to have a sugar daddy for a while. Like, not forever, but
Yeah.
like, I just thought that it would be like, can you imagine being like put up in a penthouse and like you have like
I can
shopping
imagine.
budgets and
I can imagine.
yeah, I can imagine. That sounds great. Then I'm like, yeah, but then you have to like maybe what if you like didn't like him that much? That would be like a bummer. But
Oh no, Leo's the kind of sugar daddy, man.
he
he
is-
gives you sugar.
he gives me sugar. I mean, I don't have a shopping budget. I mean, I guess I don't not have one. I don't know. I suppose
You have,
I could spend more of our money if I wanted to, but I don't
But
buy
you don't,
things.
because you have a family you're building together. You know.
Well, and like, I just am not a shopper in general. I mean, maybe I buy like too many like organizational bins or something. I don't know. I buy too much mulch for my yard. I don't know.
But I mean, a sugar daddy is nice, but you got to give all the sugar. That's
You
just
gotta
what
give the sugar.
I'm saying.
But
But
he's my husband. He's not a sugar daddy.
No, he's your
It's not
husband.
illicit.
It's not. It's not. But I mean,
We signed a literal contract together.
But he gives you
Before
sugar.
God.
He makes sure that any sugar you could want or need, you have that sugar. And you're like,
true.
hey, I can make my own sugar. And he's like, cool, you make your own sugar, but I'm still gonna give you this sugar.
That's true.
And he gives you the good stuff, not stevia.
That high octane cane sugar.
The cane sugar, where it's still brown. They haven't bleached it yet. But anyway, real quick, the words with friends guy.
Yeah.
When I told him no, basically he went to 1,000,000. He was like, he literally said, like, you should come up here. You don't know who I am. Do you know who I am? I work for the most powerful people in Canada. Like, I'm the attorney for the most powerful mafia in Canada. I was like, yeah, that makes me wanna go.
That means you know people who know how to bury
Who
my
know
body.
how to bury my body.
Yeah.
I was like, you are not making your case. He's like, I have so much money. I have this or whatever. I have like, and I was like, I don't want to.
It's not about the money, brah.
It's not about the money,
I
bro.
don't want to go up there.
Don't want to go. And now that I know that you have connections with the mafia,
I'm definitely not
I'm
going.
definitely not going. Like, you really didn't think this through.
Yeah.
And you're also an idiot because you didn't think it through. And I'm sapiosexual. So now, like, you really can't. You turned everything off.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing was ever on, but now it's definitely not going to turn on.
Yeah, the circuit breaker has been off. Everything was just off, but now
Off.
the circuit breaker is just no electricity can go.
No, the pole came down outside.
Jesus. I want to talk about my favorite review.
Okay.
The one thing I don't like about my favorite review is that she gave it 3 stars, but she hated the book. So I felt like she should have given it 1 star.
She definitely should have given it 1 star.
But I feel like she hit a lot of good points. So this
right.
is Sophia Triad from Goodreads. She says, I have read multiple times and loved all the books by Jodi. It pains me to admit this is my least favorite book by far. Frowny face. I was expecting so much more. Well, I haven't read all of the other books. It seems like every single review is like, this is my least favorite book.
Yes.
So she does say, I love the beginning of the book. There's mystery around Izzy and Theo. Theo's an interesting stalker, my favorite kind. He saves Izzy from a dark alley after she's defending a young hooker. After that, Theo seems obsessed with Izzy, follows her to work, follows her in Vegas where she went on holiday. He keeps saving her and following her around. He demands dinner with her and her time. And at some point, she decides to have a fling with him in Vegas. And then they go back to their everyday life in London. Then everything becomes really messy, out of control, full of unnecessary drama, which I don't normally mind, but in this case, I did not find Leo likable at all. He does one stupid thing after another. He gets her to lose her job. He makes her look guilty in front of her work colleagues as he creates the worst possible scene. He invites her rapist to his club. He punches her in the face by mistake, but still. After she falls unconscious on the ground, instead of looking after her and apologizing, he goes and cold-bloodedly kills the man she was trying to stop him from killing in the first place. Then he disappears. Instead of groveling back to her, she looks for him like a mad woman. He never tries to make her feel better. He only selfishly tries to punish himself. And the reaction from his mother after Izzy got punched was, I told you to let him calm down, sweetheart. Why didn't you leave him to calm down? Excuse me, what the fuck? I'm sorry, but I cannot see him as a broken man who is ready to be fixed. I thought he was needy, selfish jerk. Izzy felt safe when he was close to her, but I couldn't understand why, and it's never justified. If I was in her shoes, I would have got rid of him from the second he cost me my job and reputation. P.S. On the other hand, the love story between their friends Callum and Jess sounded really interesting. I would love to read their book. And I'm like, no, their love story sounds stupid.
Yep.
Also, this is a max 2-star review, not 3 stars. But I still agree with what she said.
Well, she did a really great job of summing up all the bullshittery. That's for damn sure.
I agree.
This is the one that I found on Audible that I thought was the closest to whatever. So this one is from Scott. I'm assuming Scott sounds like a male name. So that's exciting. Yeah. Do we have any male listeners? I would love to know. I would like to start with that I love this author. I have listened to and read almost all her books. This book was very disappointing to me. Izzy White is 90% of the book and only 10% Theo Kane. Too much of her and not enough Theo. Over 15 hours, and I could barely finish it. I think they should have done it in half the time to get to the point. Too much of saying the same thing over and over and over. Too predictable. Guessed the whole story before it ended. Not like the other books where it has what you want more of. For me, I just wanted it to end so badly. Sad, sad face.
I cannot believe she did or he did all 15 hours.
I can't believe I did all 15 hours.
Yeah, but you double time that shit, so you probably didn't take you 15.
No, it took me about 10.
And also we had to for this.
Yeah.
This book took me forever. Usually I just whatever day I decide to read, I'll read it that day, or I'll read it maybe take me 2 days or something. It took me all week to read this because I would read a couple chapters and be like, fuck, this book sucks. And then I'd walk out and tell my husband, Leo, I hate this book I'm reading. And he'd be like, why are you reading it? For the podcast. And he's like, oh, well, just read it then. Just finish it. And I'm like, shut up, Leo. Stop talking sense.
That's literally what my life has looked like. Every time Brendan comes home from work, I'm like, I got to finish this book. And it sucks so bad. And he's like, well, why do you got to finish it? It's like, it's for the podcast. Well, I mean, you signed up to do the podcast.
Shut up. Shut up with that common sense.
Common sense. Shit. Nobody asked for your common sense bullshit. Keep your damn opinions.
Yeah, right. If you want to read some books with kind of that damaged male hero situation, there are really good options. So check out the website and go read them there.
I mean, J.R. Ward.
Don't read this one.
I feel like J.R. Ward's books are damaged heroes.
Oh, totally.
All of them are
damaged.
And it doesn't have to be rapey, and it doesn't. No. And J.R. plays on the border, sometimes on the borderline of rapey.
Oh, yeah.
But we play on the borderline. We accept borderline.
I accept borderline.
But we don't accept full.
Yes.
You never go full rapey.
No.
I mean, good God.
The only time, honestly, and I say this again, I've said it before, it only works in paranormal.
You're right.
If their fucking souls had to get bound or some bullshit, and then you're like, okay, well, that's just a fact. Yeah. So here's where it is. Oh, I wiped her memories. I drank her blood for the third exchange, and you're like, that seems fucked up, but
it worked.
You had to.
You had to.
We know you're going to be happy because your souls are one soul in 2 bodies. So.
Exactly. I think you're right.
Human beings, though? No.
No.
I'm sorry, we don't have that. So.
No. So if you like a book, J.R. Ward, or we have more recommendations on the website.
Yes. I did not think this was worth the read. I actually wrote the words, hell's no, on my notes.
I wrote, fuck no.
Okay. Appreciate you. So that about sums it up, readers. Hell's no and fuck no. So do not read this book. But actually, you could read it and then let us know what you think, because
we would love to talk shit with you.
We would love to talk shit with you. But really, you should probably just read the other good books that we've been recommending. Because this one is definitely a skip.
Oof.
Definitely a skip. And, that's all there is to say. Until then, may your good books be your lover.
And your hand, your best friend.
We'll see you next time, where hopefully the book will be much more enjoyable for us to read, although perhaps this was a more enjoyable review for you to listen to, since we were quite passionate.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a word.
Quite passionate.
Quite passionate.
So come talk to us on Instagram. We want to hear from you.
All right. See you next time.
See you next time. Thanks for hanging in with us, romance readers. Head over to Instagram to continue chatting with us. We're super friendly. We want to cackle with you. We want to know what your favorite sex scene was. And we need more book recommendations. If you want to read along with us, go to our website, romanceataglance.com, to see what we're reading next. And we'll see you next podcast.